First, I just want to say, Dan, thank you, for joining, taking the time out, for everyone who's listening right now. It's been a little while since I dropped an episode. I've been kind of on daddy duty. So I just had a baby and she's like 5 weeks. So
Congratulations.
thank you so much, man. So I've been kind of focused on that. So this is a great sort of like comeback episode with my man Dan. So just a little bit of background on Dan. He is, first of all, this guy's a genius. He's done really, really, really amazing things and has broken many doors open for a lot of what's going on right now with the NFT craze and even with crypto. You were really, really early on Bitcoin, many years ago before it was even a thing. And you sort of pivoted and made some really great decisions these past few years that really you're able to reap the benefits. So I just want to start, by asking, kind of tell the people, what sort of motivated you to start getting into crypto and business, and then segue that into sort of like the NFT stuff right now and kind of how you're involved with that. What was your starting point in all of this stuff?
Yeah, well, thank you for the introduction, and thank you for having me on your podcast. Like, I really appreciate the chance to speak to you. I guess from like an early age, I was always interested in business. I remember like even in high school, like I was always thinking of like ways to make money. I never really wanted to like work a 9 to 5 job. Setting up like an eBay stores and things like that, and just as soon as I was allowed to create like a share account when I was like, 18, I started trading like stocks and things like that. Like, so I've just always been very interested in investing and, making money work for me. So, while I was at university studying psychology, I just found myself procrastinating constantly, like on assignments, on like task work and things like that. And I basically, just like came across like this BBC article one day while I was procrastinating, and it was just like, it was like just basically talking about like this cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. It had just gone from $15 to $30 or something, and I don't know, like just something like really caught my eye about it. I just, I delved deeper, and I went onto the Bitcoin Talk forum, and yeah, I just started like, doing some homework on it, and just realized like this could potentially completely like revolutionize the whole financial system. Not only like, in like, developed countries like ourselves, like where we are, but like also in, in developing countries as well, So I just saw like, there's just so many like potential use cases for it. And there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoins. And for me, that was kind of like a land grab, right? Like, if there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoins, but there's like 7.5 billion people in the world, like, it's going to become like this, like almost like a gold rush in the future, especially with the halving every 4 years. And it's just going to become more and more scarce, basically, like with the inflation. So I just really loved that concept. I thought by design, it was like designed to like just go up in value. So very early on, I just went all in. I basically put all of my savings into Bitcoin, and then I just basically from there onwards, I just started trading like into like alternate currencies like Ripple, Litecoin. I think there's like another one like called like Terracoin, Counterparty, and things like that. And really like didn't see my big break until 2017, and that's kind of like obviously when like the ICO bubble happened, and a lot of money was flowing into the space, a lot of euphoria, a lot of like retail. That's when like everyone sort of like found out about Bitcoin basically, and I did quite well. That's when I made my first million. It was like I think it was about May 2017, and that was kind of like at the time when I had to make a tough decision, like whether I do continue to do my studies. So at that point, I had graduated from my psych degree, and I was now in law school to become a lawyer. And or do I continue doing what I love to do, which is trade and invest and look up emerging technologies and like disruption and things like that. And that's kind of like when I made that decision to just go full-time crypto. So then from there onwards, I really just dove into the whole space, and like, I started traveling a lot as well. I really wanted to see a lot of the world. I had the financial capability to do that now, at that point. And then I really like, took like probably, up to about a year off. I just completely just like, out of the space, decided to just like travel. And then when I got back in like, I'd say, in 2018, like that's when I really started to like delve back into the space again. Like, how had it changed? What's the latest, trends at the moment? And I had heard of like, NFTs in 2017. I had heard of like, CryptoKitties and CryptoPunks and things like that, but never really gave them a thought. Like, I just thought like, with all of these ICO bubbles and things going on at the moment, like I just thought possibly a scam, right? Like I was just very wary of like just anything new at the time. And yeah, so it was really like, late 2018, I believe, or early 2019. Like that's when I, first like started like, diving into the NFT space. And, I discovered Axie Infinity. They were doing a land sale at the time. And I just, really loved the idea of play to earn. So basically, being able to earn an income online. So like, who doesn't want to make an income online, right? Like, everyone's trying to do it, like either being like an influencer or writing a blog or something like that. And I just thought like, this is a whole new avenue for like, a lot of people who just want to like, I think also coming from like, traveling a lot and like seeing like all these like unique ways, like how people were funding their travels. I just thought like, this is just going to be like a brilliant sort of like way for people to be literally sitting on the beaches of like, Mexico or wherever, as long as they've got an internet connection, and they can just like harvest resources within a game world, sell that to someone who needs those resources to then like deploy that into like construction, or maybe they want to brew some beer, or, so they have like full like in-game like mechanics, and it's all built like on the blockchain, and, got this like full like, in-game economies and everything. So really loved the idea of that. And then, that's what then led me to, CryptoPunks, collectibles, things like that. Being a crypto native, for some years now, like I really could relate to, the whole like scarcity model, and, seeing something that's like being a first mover, and like, being able to identify that could potentially be a massive, market cap in the near future. Because I just thought like, whatever's first in this space, and it's scarce, it's finite, like Punk. So, they were like the first Ethereum NFT. There's only 10,000 of them. I just thought, no matter how big this NFT space gets, people are going to always look back at like, where did this all begin, right? And they're going to look at punks, and they're cool, right? They're like this like online flex. Like you can put them as your avatar, and people immediately know like that person's a baller. They mean business, they take this like space seriously. So I really loved that idea. And unlike, a Rolex, right? Like, you can post about your Rolex, you can take a photo of one, you can get one from like, Google images or whatever. These are like verifiable. Like you can actually look on the blockchain, like, does Danny actually own his punk or not? And that's what I loved about punks, and obviously like NFTs and like the whole blockchain space as well. So, and then from there, like I looked into like, like digital land, and then more recently, digital art. And then I, really, gravitated to the whole art space. I just love the energy that's going on there, like with like new creators and like artists who are coming into the space, and like just letting their like imaginations run wild, like with this new medium, and like just seeing like, people's lives literally changing overnight. Like for me, that excited me so much. And like, that's why I really like, got involved.
That's amazing, man. It's crazy because, you were able to sort of foresee and essentially bet on Bitcoin. And then, a few years later to just be able to sort of foresee the NFT art ecosystem kind of rise to what it's going towards right now. I mean, that's a really very, very important skill to kind of have, right? What are some of the things that you sort of, I mean, this might be kind of a weird question, but are there certain things or emotions or feelings that you sort of experience when you see something or hear about something, and you tell yourself, wow, like this is something that could be potentially, huge in the future, or something that could make a big impact in society and decide to jump into it? Is there like a process to that, or do you kind of go with instinct?
It's so funny that you asked that because I've tried to put this into words in the past as well, and I'd have to say it's just instinct, I should say. So, I think it's like I just go with like my gut feeling. Like I remember still to this day, like when I first discovered Bitcoin, and I literally couldn't sleep for the next week or so. Like I was so excited, like my heart was racing. Like I was just like, wow, this is going to literally disrupt the whole financial system. I was just thinking of like all of these different ways of like how people can like, utilize this like, digital currency. And I think, the thing that I missed after 2017 is that like, for me, it was like, it basically had reached that mainstream adoption, that gentrification sort of like, it didn't feel like the Bitcoin that I had first discovered. And like, I kind of like lost a little bit of like passion for that. And the thing is like when I discovered NFTs, like 7 years later or so, it's like I felt that again. And I hadn't felt that same feeling since I discovered Bitcoin. So I was really excited again. I didn't sleep. I just, I was nonstop, like just hooked on Discord, on Twitter, like anywhere where like, there's an NFT community, I'd be there, I'd be chatting about them because like there's just so many things running through my mind. And, the thing that like really attracted me to NFTs was that, what Bitcoin did for finance, like, NFTs we're going to do for everything else, like you name it, like, proof of attendance, music, art, collectibles, like everything. So that's what got me so excited because I just thought like, not only are we just like, tackling one issue, we're tackling like a multitude of issues. And I think, literally it was just, me being able to like, assess. I think I am naturally a little bit more of a risk taker. Like, I don't think too many people would, discover, Bitcoin in 2013 and just decide to put everything into it. But like, that's just something that like I've naturally done throughout my life. Like, I think like I'm all about taking calculated risks, so if it makes sense to me and like, if there is like some sort of like scarcity model and if there's like, potential for this to like blow up in the future, I'm just thinking like in a very simple sense, like supply demand. And like, I think if there's like many like, different like use cases, like we're seeing like with NFTs, like, that just gets me overly excited. So yeah, to answer your question, like I think it's just instinct, to be honest. And yeah.
It's so interesting because there's people that invest and collect NFTs, do it for various reasons. Some people purchase with intentions of flipping later. For some people, it's a money play. For other people, it's, wow, this is aesthetically really, really amazing. I want to like put this in one of those like brand new digital frames and, hang it up in my living room and sometimes a combination of both. So for you, how much or how little do you look for that? How much of the stuff are you seeing and collecting and are attracted to is about the art, and how much is it also, part of, okay, if I'm going to, spend a pretty good amount of money, the smarter thing to do would be to invest in something that is a good investment as well. So how do you balance those two?
To be honest, like when I first discovered NFTs, it was all about the profit, right? Like I was purely investment minded. Like, I was just looking at these thinking I can probably make a good amount of money from holding these assets that, the next, couple of years. And I think, that's the most like, unique thing that changed, I guess, over the last, I'd say even just 3 months is that, I've gone from like a completely like, investment mind to like now more as like a collector, I would say. Like I'm actually buying things that I just love. I don't even look at the price tag. Like you may have seen, like, I've, splurged a little bit like on Puck and other artists like that. But because at the end of the day, like if I like that piece, like I've just got to have it, right? Like it's just like if it sings to me, if, it's thought provoking, if it's like, it's going to spark some kind of like, interesting conversation when I display it on like, the wall of my residence or something like that. Like that's what like gets me excited. And I think, I do have a handful of NFTs that I will never sell. So like, obviously my 7 trait that I display as my avatar on Twitter.
Hmm.
There's a handful of punks and, even just like artwork from like, Hackatow and Park and, a few other like, big OG artists that I just probably would never sell no matter the offer. And then like, obviously, you do have to like at some point take money out of this as well. So, I do also have pieces that I'm thinking of like holding for like, the near term, but, eventually I will end up flipping. So I would actually say like dollar wise, if you're looking at like the value of like everything in my collection, I would say it's almost 50-50. I would say like half of the stuff that I could probably like, get rid of in the next like, 1 to 2 years. And then there's like other like, there's other NFTs that I may never sell, but I may sell for the right price tag, right? Like if someone offered me $100 million for my 7 trade, that's going to be pretty hard to turn down.
Yeah.
Let's just say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a cool way to approach it, because the one of my favorite parts about what an NFT is and what it represents is you're not just like, and this is no offense to what I'm about to say, but like you're not just like spending a bunch of money on something that doesn't necessarily help someone else in a way, or is something that's sort of mindless, like art. I mean, obviously I'm an artist through music, but art is just such an important, plays such an important role in society. And what you're doing is you're sort of, being a collector and having fun being a collector and satisfying the creative part of that. But in essence, you're also really, contributing to the economy of this, and you're changing lives, like the upcoming artist who's never sold an NFT in their life. You come around and you see it and you believe in it and you're passionate about it. And, that transaction right there can turn someone's life upside down. And I just think that's an amazing thing to do. And what you're doing is you're one of the few that are really setting an example for that. And I just got to applaud you for that, man.
Yeah, no, like, thank you. And like, that's literally like what I've, somewhat like set out to do as well, right? Like I've been incredibly fortunate to have gotten into crypto like when I did. And not only do I get to like buy incredible work that I love to like, listen to or to look at or things like that, it's like, but I'm actually making an impact in someone else's life as well, right? And I think that's incredibly powerful, right? Like I've had, now so many stories of like, artists, coming to me and saying like, Danny, like, thank you so much. Like, what you have done for my career, like, especially like during like COVID, like a lot of people have been struggling and, completely like turning their lives around. And like, I just think that that's so powerful. And, that's why I try to like give back as much as I can as well. Like, I don't know if you've seen, but like, I do occasionally do the kind of like, show me your art, because I literally want to like help and support these like up and coming artists who don't get that exposure, because I think it is becoming increasingly harder for new artists to break out in this space, because we have seen a massive influx in recent months. So being able to just like shine that spotlight on like newer artists as well, and being able to like just support like a range of like different people from like around the world, I think, that's really important as well. And to be able to like, give back, that's something that's like, I guess shifted in my sense of like investing in everything as well. So like being able to actually like, have that impact, but also like, knowing that you've got that sort of like, something that you can hold on to forever as well. And that you got that like story behind it.
Yeah. It's like one of those rare things in human nature where like sort of everyone wins, right? It's like the artist wins, you win, society
That's the perfect
wins.
scenario,
Dude,
right? You want
like,
everyone to win.
Yeah, you really do. And so speaking of everyone winning, so, obviously, in the music industry, being a music producer, that's not always the case in many ways. And for what we were saying earlier, for artists, for visual artists, that wasn't the case for a long time. I mean, if you were a graphic designer in 2006 or 7 or 8, it's really almost impossible to try to figure out how to get paid. you know, unless you score like a freelance gig for like a movie or a commercial or a video game. And those opportunities are so slim. And what this NFT space has done is just open that door up for artists. So seeing that we're sort of witnessing this fusion now of visual art and music and sound, you know, you have Snoop and The Weeknd and Blau and all these big guys, you know, coming out. Me a little bit dibbling and dabbling, but what's your sort of observation and opinion? Where do you foresee the visual and music NFT aspect? Where do you see that going? And, you know, what's your kind of take on that marriage coming together?
I think what we're going to see, you know, in the near future is like, I just think like the production quality is going to get much better as well, right? I like, you know, I obviously like love like what everyone's doing right now. I think it's like incredible, but I really want to see like, you know, there's like high sort of like, you know, high budget, sort of like big production value, like, you know, if someone's spending X amount of dollars on like this NFT, and that like almost like, you know, in a sense, like with like, you know, Bitcoin mining, for example, right? It costs X amount of dollars to produce one Bitcoin. It's like, you know, it's cost X amount of dollars to produce this NFT. I like that kind of idea. And like, you know, high production value. So like, you know, that like, you know, the music and like, you know, the visuals and everything are just going to be like absolutely just high quality. And I actually really like the idea of also like, basically like, you know, buy in like full commercial rights as well. I think, you know, that's something that hasn't really just quite been explored yet. I think, you know, in certain circumstances, like, you know, it does make sense as well. Like, you know, if someone wants to offload some of the risk of like, you know, like seeing whether their like song or whatever is going to be successful, they could then like, you know, say, okay, how about I just sell 50% of this song to someone else, and then we just rev share, you know, the royalties from that.
Mm-hmm.
But they like, you know, just, you know, up front, you know, can earn like, you know, 500,000, $1 million, $5 million. So they take a little bit of that risk off the table for themselves, you know. So I think, you know, I want to see more of that. I do want to like, you know, start seeing like high production value in like, you know, some of these like NFTs as well. I think like, you know, we are still very early stages, but the market is starting to like, you know, look a little bit tired. And, you know, I want to see kind of like, you know, what's next, like what's like NFT, you know, version 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the new standard? Because like, you know, again, like I feel like, you know, with Maker's Place and like, you know, other platforms, the standard is just currently, you know, non-commercial rights. And, you know, there's very like little like, you know, effort in some of these NFTs. I'm not saying all, like obviously like, you know, there's some incredible artists right now that are doing extremely well. And like, I would like to think like, you know, that's a majority of like what's been, you know, on offer here. But I think if someone really wants to like break out, like, you know, in this space, like, you know, that would be, you know, what would be required is like, you really want to like, just like put on like a showing basically, like, this is what I've been able to do with music and the visuals, you know your medium, like how can you use this medium to your advantage and really like, you know, stand out from the rest.
I love that. Do you think that a potential future for NFTs could potentially be AR, VR, human experience, you know, like incorporating this blockchain NFT technology to our everyday life, you know, even down to, and this might be semi-related or not to the previous comment, but, you know, as simple as going to a grocery store with, you know, AR goggles, you know, it's the year 2036 and we all have AR and we're in Whole Foods and, you know, we're paying and we're getting receipts through NFTs and all that kind of madness of potential of what NFTs could be. Do you see a world where that, you know, that could be a reality?
Definitely. So I've actually invested in a startup called Party, and they are kind of exploring this right now. So basically, like, you know, if you go to like a festival, so let's say like Tomorrowland or something like that, being able to like receive like a digital sort of like, wristband, right? Like, so like an NFT that you've got forever. And something that you can then like show your friends as well, right? Like, so you've got that lasting sort of like relationship and like that memory from that particular event. So I think we are going to see more of that, like, proof of attendance. People being able to like show off like all of their like digital wristbands of like all of the, festivals and the events and things that they've like been to, like ticketing. I think, the metaverse is still relatively untapped. We have started to see more interest in the metaverse, I would say, in the last like few weeks, finally, because we did see like a lot of like, explosive growth in the arts sector and like, also like, collectibles and things like that. So it's really nice to see, the metaverse seeing some love as well. And I just think, as this like technology gets better and like VR and AR and all of that sort of stuff and continues to improve, I think, we are going to like, see more and more of our time, like, like plugged in basically. And I wouldn't be surprised if we do start to see like, virtual concerts and like, virtual meetups. And I think, COVID in a way has like sped all of that up for us, right? Like, I think this was like, many years down the track, and it's all of a sudden like, everyone's on Zoom now and we're getting used to this whole like, like virtual kind of like world. And I think this is kind of like the first step to like, a much bigger, opportunity as well, because I think like as these metaverses take off, there's always going to be, opportunity in this newfound world. It's like, you're the first like pioneers of like a new kind of like country or something, right? So I think, all of the early investors in this stuff, they're going to absolutely reap the rewards and the benefits of this. And I just see, more and more traction towards metaverse and everything else as well, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely can see it. And it's so funny because when you think about, this, like you said, COVID sort of sped up the process of all this, right? So VR, AR it's been around for years, but it's quickly becoming potentially a reality for incorporated in our everyday lives, right? And so do you think that because the world is sort of moving into this digital realm, AR, VR, digital collectibles, digital receipts, AI, all this stuff, do you think that because those things are becoming part of our reality, do you think that the value and cost of physical goods will be affected positively or negatively? The original Charizard cardboard card that's worth so much money. Do you think that because things are moving digital, do you think physical goods will now increase in value, or what kind of relation do you think those two things have?
I think like just with technology, that's why I haven't really invested in like physical collectibles, just because I think, as technology gets better, what stops, people like counterfeiting your like, your shiny Charizard or your baseball card or, anything, right? Like it's very easy to counterfeit. Whereas like on the blockchain, and this is what's so beautiful about NFTs, is that you can see exactly, who's owned that. It's like a ledger, right? Like who's owned that like piece before you? Did it come from the original artist? You can see all of that. Whereas like you can't counterfeit an NFT. Sure, you can right click and save one of my art pieces, but everyone's going to know that it's just a fake. Like we can see where it came from, just the same way as like, if you printed out the Mona Lisa, we know the Mona Lisa is, in France. Right. So I actually think that it's going to have a negative effect on like physical. I just don't really see, investors really being attracted to physical collectibles when you've got such a better alternate with NFTs. And that's not to say that this like, market's going to crash overnight or anything like that. I just think we're going to start seeing a lot more adoption into NFTs over physical, and like it'd be like a slow decline, just maybe like, video or something like that. And yeah.
Yeah, I mean that makes so much sense. It really does. And now with 3D printers, I mean I can take a little collectible and literally like pretty much
Exactly.
duplicate it and mint it. So yeah, the blockchain technology is so powerful. So I don't want to keep you too long, Dan, but where do you sort of, or you know what, we'll go to this. What would be your best piece of advice for brand spanking new, super fresh, upcoming artist, visual artist, very talented? Maybe they've been doing, visual art for 4, 5, 6, 10 years. So they're skill wise, they have the skill, but they haven't sold a piece. They don't have, they don't have the nifty, invite or anything,
Hmm.
and they don't really know anyone. So, what would be sort of a realistic starting point for that artist to try to get their feet wet into the NFT world?
I think the my first word of advice would just to be authentic. I have seen this time and time again where an artist will enter the space, their artwork doesn't sell or something, but they see like other artists selling like a certain like style or like whatever, and then they end up like trying to like copy that other artist. I think staying true to yourself, being authentic is like just the best, way to start in this space, because I don't really think it looks good if like, someone sees an artist who's just chop and changing all the time, because, I want to see like, an artist like develop their own style. I want it to be like distinct. Like, if I'm buying one of their pieces, I want other people to know that that's from that artist, right? Like, I want people to be like, oh, that's a ferocious piece, or that's a park piece, because they know their style, right? Like, and I love that their work. So I honestly think like that's the best like best like number one rule to like go by. And I think just like getting involved. Like I think it's not a matter of creating your artwork, minting it on Rarible or OpenSea or somewhere like that, and then just like just waiting for a sale. It's like, how are you going to get that artwork out there? Like, how are people going to know about your work? And I think you need to get onto Twitter. You need to be on like Clubhouse, Discord, like really just start getting involved in the community. Start talking to like people and like OGs, and like try to get the attraction of like a whale, because those people are the ones who are like determining like most of these like the sales volume right now. It's like a handful of them, right? So trying to get their attention in any way you can, but like not in a begging way as well, right? Like in a in a good way that's like that's subtle enough for someone to be like, oh wow, like that's really interesting. Let me more look into like what they do. Like I've done that time and time again, where I've just read a thread of like someone's, and I'm like, wow, like I really want to support them. Like their work looks amazing. Like what's their what's their like links, like where are they listing their artwork on, like and then I'll like start looking into them a little bit more. So just being able to spark that sort of like curiosity for people. I think that's really what you want. You obviously want to network and things like that, and yeah, and just like be true to you, and like just be distinct, have fun. Like don't forget, like this is like this a really incredible community. You're surrounded by people who are probably in a very like similar situation maybe, and everyone's trying to like get the attention of like the big whales and like the big investors in this space. But I think at the end of the day, like just remember to also have fun as well. Like this is like at the end of the day, like a very creative space. Let your imagination go wild and just enjoy the process.
Love it. I love it. Originality, staying true to yourself, do some networking, get to know the community, get to understand how you can contribute to it and what you bring to the table,
Hmm.
and keep at it. I love it. It's so crazy because like it's the same thing in music, man. It's like make the music you love, stay true to yourself, get to know your community. You know what they say, like network, network horizontal and not vertical, right?
Hmm.
Don't try to
Exactly.
get to the whales, like you say, or in our world, if you're an upcoming musician or a music producer, you can't just try to get to Drake or Jay-Z or
Earn your
Beyonce.
stripes, right?
Yeah, yeah, you got to earn them and network across. And I love that, that's true in every, basically every industry. I love that, man. So, any secret projects or anything you want to, divulge of what you're working on right now? Anything exciting?
Yeah, I think it's like, got into a point now, like, I've been doing like a little bit of media. There's been like a lot of like, interest in NFTs,
Yeah,
like,
I
all
saw
that,
you
like
dropped an
NF.
NFT recently, right?
Yeah, I did. I
Sick.
did. So I've been trying to do some like, collabs like with artists that I love. And, I just wanted to like, try to like, see what I can do for them as well. And like, just wanted to like try and like build more of a brand around like my seven trade as well. Like I want to create like a story around them, right? It's not just like this like pixelated head. It's like I want people to be able to like look at him and be like, oh, I know his story already, right? Like I'm trying to like build that. So like that's kind of like, what I've been up to. Just like, probably more collaborations, like, in the near future. I think, I need to sort of like, at this point, decide like where I take this. I really love the idea of like, setting up like a gallery, maybe in the metaverse or somewhere. And maybe being able to like, display like all of my cool artwork and stuff. Like, I think like I really just like, want to take like that sort of like that kind of approach and just share, that knowledge and share that sort of like love that I have for like, this like art and like these like collectibles and everything else, and just like be, as like expressive as possible, and, just like educating people. And I'm kind of glad now that I don't think we're fully past it, but we are getting past the whole like right click and save thing. I
Yeah.
think that's just like a matter of like education. And, it reminds me of like when I first got into Bitcoin, everyone's like, that's monopoly money. Like, doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Like, that's stupid, right? So, I've been there, I've done that before, I've heard it all. So, I'm just glad that we're starting to get past that now. And like people are starting to like grow and appreciate this art. And, yeah, I just think like, I just want to just also, be authentic to myself, like take on some of that advice that I just gave earlier. Like, I just want to like be consistent, like, with what I'm doing. I don't want to like falter, like, and, be like a sellout, as you see, like some people like, becoming or whatnot. Like, I just want to like just keep doing me, keep building, keep, networking, keep, like jumping on like opportunities. And, yeah, like, there's a couple of things in the works, but I can't really talk about them right now
Of
on the
course.
podcast. But yeah, like you'll hear about it soon. Like it's I'll be definitely tweeting about it in the near future.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Dan, whatever you're doing is working, and you're
Thanks, man.
trailblazing in this space, and you're setting a really, really amazing example for other people, whether they're, artists or collectors or, just people in this space. You're setting a really amazing example, and man, it's going to be really fun to watch or it's going to be really fun to just watch you continue to just trailblaze this space, man. It's super awesome what you're doing.
I really appreciate it, and it's been great connecting. Finally,
Yeah,
we've been chatting a little bit on Twitter for the last few
yeah,
weeks. So it's been really great to like be able to sit down and like have this like chat about NFTs and like just everything that
dude.
we're involved in. It's awesome.
Super fun, man. Super fun. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. What is it like? How early is it right now? It's like morning, right? It's like
It's
breakfast.
yeah, it's 20 to 11, so I've still got
Oh,
a day ahead of myself. So I actually had a few drinks last night. I had some
uh,
wine, so I'm a little bit groggy today, but it's fine. It's gonna. I think like after this, I've got one more call, and then I'm gonna call it. I think it's gonna be the weekend for me.
cool, man. Well, enjoy the weekend, Dan. I'll see you on Twitter, of course. And
Yeah,
whatever you're working on, it's really gonna be fun to watch, and you'll see me retweeting the hell out of all of it. So,
yes, I'll
um,
keep you in the loop. And I've been seeing like all of the stuff that you're up to as well. It's been awesome, right?
thank you. Yeah, just having fun in the space, and seeing what happens, and just trying to do what we can. So, appreciate you, Dan.
I
We'll
mean,
talk soon, and hope you guys enjoyed this episode with the one and only Daniel Maegaard. Yes, sir. Yeah, man. All right, man. We'll talk soon,
yeah,
bro.
that was awesome. Thank you so much, man.
Yeah, dude. I'll
Cheers.
see you soon. Peace.
Appreciate it.